All right, well, it's open season on rock stars, apparently. And right now, there is a raging witch hunt for Rammstein and their frontman, Till Lindemann. They are under siege in the media and increasingly by some European politicians. Now, I have a much longer series of videos that I'm working on about this situation, and I keep saying that I'm going to be out with them soon, but it's quite a task to go through this huge hill of bullshit, this huge pile of bullshit that keeps accumulating as the days pass. But I thought that since today the big news is that German authorities are looking into Till Lindemann or investigating Till Lindemann at the pressure and behest, apparently, of some politicians. And I thought that I would just go ahead and talk about this right now. So I haven't, a longer series of videos coming out, but I wanted to explain where I'm at on this. Now, to my viewers who are much more interested in the Johnny Depp and the Marilyn Manson stuff and are kind of tired of this, what they see as a pointless detour into this German band situation, I think you need to understand. One of my complaints about some of my viewers, and I'm sorry if this pisses someone off, but one of my complaints about some of my viewers is that some of you lack vision and you seem unable to see where one thing connects to another. And every time I want to focus on what I consider to be a new media hit job, a new Metoo hit job, more of this BS in a different form, I have some people screaming, no, no, you can't defend that guy or you can't defend that band, only the one I like. Johnny Depp is the only man who's ever been falsely accused to some of you, apparently. Marilyn Manson is the only rock figure, the only musician who's been unfairly accused to some of you. That's just not the case. This is a fucking epidemic. It is an epidemic, and it is generated because of several factors, one of which is a media that has become completely unmoored, not only from the truth, but any desire to find the truth generally, with very few exceptions. And then you get this sort of cultural sex panic, this hyperventilation that occurs over things that were perfectly acceptable up till now. And it's kind of like an earthquake. Suddenly there's some kind of a panic that breaks out, and everybody sort of wakes up and goes, oh my gosh, you mean that there are these things called groupies, and that rock stars might arrange trysts with these groupies? What? No shit, Sherlock, where have you been? But it's like a kind of an earthquake, right? Is that this new sort of this energy will break out, and there's all this hyperventilation, and everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people losing their minds. And then when things settle in, we're left with a situation that is more repressive of our freedoms than what we had before. And it's not going to stop here. The proponents of this are already saying that it needs to move on to other bands and other groups. That's what some of the German media are saying. All right. Some of the journalists who are covering this lunatic Shelby, I don't know if she's crazy or she's a liar or some unfortunate mix of both. That was the thing that we wondered about Amber Heard and Evan Rachel Wood and some of these other cases that we've already seen here in America. I mean, there's so many cases in America. I'm covering a couple of them. There's so many cases right now in America, and particularly in these high media situations with stars that are just BS. And the allegations come out, and there's a flurry and hyperventilation, and the victims get their 15 or 20 or 30 minutes of fame and all of that. People get canceled, their reputation's ruined, their livelihood's ruined. We lose one more musician or actor or rock star or writer or whatever. And then we're just sort of left in this nauseating afterglow of, well, what was that about? And then slowly, the realization dawning that we were duped. And then you have this sort of long awakening of people realizing, oh, Amber Heard was lying. Oh, Evan Rachel Wood is lying. And that's what it is now. There are some of us who can see the truth on this Rammstein thing. This woman, this Shelby lunatic who started this whole thing, with these insane allegations and insinuations that she was drugged by Till Lindemann and that she was violated by someone, although she doesn't remember it, at the Rammstein after party, and that she went through this terribly traumatic incident midway through the show with Till Lindemann asking her for sex and her saying no and him being okay with it, him saying okay, might not have been okay with it, but saying okay. And suddenly that's a traumatic incident. He asked me for sex. I said no. He seemed annoyed, but he said okay. That was it. Ah! If you are that weak, we don't have to cater to you. There is this really sick idea now in our society, is taking hold in our society, that we are morally bound to cater to the weakest form of human being, the weakest kind of woman in this case, the kind of woman who, if she goes to a rock concert, and not just a rock concert, but a Rammstein concert, which if you don't know what that codes as, that is extreme rock. The kind of person who goes to a Rammstein concert cannot be some kind of weak, fluttering wallflower. Come on, I've seen videos of you, Shelby. You weren't drugged. You were just obnoxious. You're about, from what I can see from those videos, Shelby, you're about the last woman that should have issues with feeling pressured about anything. You seem to be dominating everyone around you. That's all I see when I look at those videos of you with those other women. And the other women are kind of like, and Shelby's like, Rammstein. Well, if you're going to act that way and you're going to go to a Rammstein concert, and apparently from what I've seen looking into you, you had been going around on Reddit trying to figure out how you could get in the suck box if there was one with Till Lindemann, but never mind. But you're going to do all that, and you're going to be boisterous, and you're going to be in everyone's face and sexualized and all of that. And then Till Lindemann wants to have sex with you, and you're like, oh, sex is very important to me. It's very special to me. Sex is very special to you. Well, I'm sorry, but that is in direct contradiction to like everything that you're giving off in all these videos. And before someone says, well, dressing a certain way doesn't mean that you should be assaulted. No one was assaulting her. And some of you want to create a society in which men cannot proposition women without fear, in which men cannot be sexually aggressive with women. I'm not talking about assaulting or anything like that. But men are allowed to make women uncomfortable to a degree. Because some women are made uncomfortable just by anyone expressing any kind of romantic or sexual interest in them whatsoever. So if you are uncomfortable with someone expressing unwanted sexual interest in you, then you don't deserve to have any sexual interest, because no one knows until it's actually expressed that there is sexual interest. So yeah, we all have to be kind of courageous to a degree, and we all have to put up with some degree of discomfort, not unwanted touching, not assault, not intensive harassment, nothing, no. But things that have up till this particular point been acceptable. And the idea that someone is so stupid or so weak that they don't know when they spend personal time, private time, when they're asked, according to her story, which again, I don't know if this is true, but according to her story, asked if she wanted to spend special time with Till Lindemann, and then she goes back there and she sees that it's a small room, she says, well, Till, if you want sex, I'm not here for that. We're going to act like that was some kind of assault. Sounds like she was the one being obnoxious. How do we even know necessarily that that's what she was brought back there for? I know I'm not being naive, but I'm just saying, like, she walks into the room and the first thing, by her own admission, if we're going to believe her story, the first thing she says is, if you want sex, I'm not here for that. Doesn't sound like you have a problem expressing yourself. Doesn't sound like you were afraid. And it sounds like you were being kind of obnoxious. Maybe the reason that you said Till had an attitude with you when you told him that you didn't want sex. Well, maybe he had an attitude because you charged into the room screaming at him and you bit his head off and you said, I don't want sex. I mean, that's kind of presumptuous on your part, Shelby. I think it would be very interesting to know Till's side of this whole thing, because I think it would be like one of those comedy routines where like you have the he said and the she said, and they're like completely different And the thing is, if Shelby were a credible or trustworthy person, if she had exhibited up to this point any degree of credibility, any sign of a sensible, reasonable nature, then I would say, okay, well, I still don't agree that there's a problem here, but we'll give it some credibility. We'll think on it more. But she has been nothing but non-credible since the start. Don't forget how she has changed her story and her insinuations about what happened. Remember how she had to go to her Twitter because she had put on there drugged by Rammstein, and she had to change it to drugged at Rammstein. And she was saying at first, "Oh, Till Lindemann, he's a pedophile." You can see videos, you can still dig them up of her screaming, "He's a pedophile." What does that even mean when it applies to a 22-year-old woman? I'm so tired of that word being overused. All of you who throw that word, that P word around like it's nothing, let me just tell you, that P word, it does not refer to adults. And look, let me hit you with something that some of you are not going to like. It doesn't refer to underage teenagers either. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it should be legal. I'm not saying it should be excused. I am saying that a 15-year-old is not a child. And if people want to get me in trouble for that, saying that, fine. I'm just tired of it. Just tired of it. We have lost all sense of anything. And the problem with using, is, in case some of you don't know, the problem with using the P word for things that aren't real children is that eventually the term it'll keep growing so that it encompasses more and more things that it was not originally supposed to encompass. Already we have people referring to adults as children. People acting like if a man has sex with an 18-year-old, and I don't know in your country what the age of consent is, could be lower, right? But let's say, but even here in America, when a man has sex with an 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and there's an age difference, people call him the P word. That is outrageous. And if you ask, why do you care so much? It's because what it leads to is sexual repression and repression of people's freedom to choose their own damned romantic partners. You know? Why are some of you so intent on reducing the dating options for younger women? Maybe some of us, myself included, when we were adults but younger, right? Maybe when I was in my early 20s, as I did, maybe I wanted to date a man much older, and maybe I got a lot of great things out of it. Knowledge, life experience, someone who was more interested in kind of taking care of me, maybe, and attending to my needs than, like some younger men. It's just all about them. I mean, come on. I am so, so tired of this diseased way of thinking. And those of you who support Marilyn Manson or you support Johnny Depp, but you're terrified of this Rammstein thing, I would just say to some of you that some of you just can't see something until it's clearly in everyone's face. And that's okay. That's not a knock at you. Not everybody can have the same powers of discernment, but I'm just telling you that this is the same BS in a slightly altered form. And they're using the same arguments against Lindemann. They're bringing up his poetry. They're bringing up his songs. They're bringing up his art. They're bringing up, oh, he made a weird kind of porn-like film. Well, I've looked into that. That's overblown too. It's Marilyn Manson groupie thing all over again. And they're calling him creepy. And they're saying he's 60 years old. I am sick to death of the ageism too. Some of you are despicable with the ageism. You are despicable. And one day when you get to be that age, and people are talking about you that way. Ew, that 60-year-old woman. Ew, that 60-year-old man. One day when people are talking about you that way, I want you to remember that you helped to make it happen because you were okay with the ageism. And you were okay when they throw around words like creepy. I looked at the Daily Beast today because this Rammstein thing, it's finally made the Daily Beast. It was their #1 story for a while on the Daily Beast. And do you know one of the main things that's alleged against Lindemann in that Daily Beast story? They said he was creepy. They literally say it. I've got it right here. I don't know if I'll have time to put it up in front of you. I probably won't, but you check it out yourself. Creepy. That's what they have to say. He's accused of creepy behavior.